will assault your senses. They are incorporated. They will bend your mind, shatter your sanity, and seal your fate. Lethal Ladies Inc. Try us on for size. We will take your breath away. They are lethal. They will take your breath away. They are ladies, artfully seductive, graphically sensual. They will assault your senses. They are incorporated. They will bend your mind, shatter your sanity, and seal your fate. Lethal Ladies Inc. Try us on for size. We will take your breath away. Go back to the drive-in with Dana and Candice, reliving great times, watching fantastic films, spending time with family and friends, eating the best buttered popcorn, drinking ice-cold sodas, shivering as the horror invades our minds, laughing as the comedy fills us with joy, crying as the drama pulls at our heartstrings. There is nothing quite as special as our driving memories. There is nothing quite as special as our driving memories.
Howdy, gang. There may be a delay. There's probably going to be a delay in Candace being on here because my stupid brain forgot to send her the link and she had to remind me. And I remembered while I was playing the intro, I was, oh my gosh, I didn't send Candace the link. Um, so, yeah, another new Friday Foolish to Poet. But, like I was saying, I dropped the ball and didn't send Candace the link. I neglected to do that, which was bad on my part. I'm going to remove some things from the studio since we've already played them. So I can keep watch for Candace. So I don't want to get started with this until she gets on here with me. So I'll go ahead and get some housekeeping stuff out of the way. And then that will give Candace time enough. And I'm going to apologize to her profusely when she gets on here because I don't know where my head has been, up my rear end, I would assume, because I can't, I can't remember anything anymore. And I do have, I know Chris said last time we neglected the opportunity to wear some last drive-in shirts as we were talking about drive-in. So I have my night marathon shirt which I really like this design, by the way, with from Fright Rags. Um, and so I don't know what Candace is going to be wearing, but I thought, well, I'll just do the last drive-in shirt for this evening. But I just want to can't talk. Wanted to remind everyone that tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, I'm going to be doing a special childhood nightmares. It's going to be another watch along. We are going to be watching Cassandra from 1987, a movie that the trailer alone freaked me out when I was younger. And, it still kind of freaks me out as an adult. So, um, the movie itself is pretty standard slasher, but there are some kind of creepy moments that will give you cold chills, or at least they give me cold chills. Now, this movie's not readily available, so I got a copy of it and put it on archive.org. And I have put a link to where you can go to archive.org and you can download it. Hopefully, it's still on archive.org. There's a link in the description for this stream, video, whatever you want to call it, where you can click on that to download it prior to us doing or me doing the watch along. So I wanted to remind you of that. I'm going to try to do a movie munchies for the slaughtered lamb pub cheese. And that'll be pre-recorded. It'll probably be a short one, but I wanted to make sure I had done a movie munchies for a little bit. I know I kept meaning to do children of the cornbread salad and never have gotten around to doing it. So I thought, well, I've got this stuff to make this pub cheese. Why don't I just call it slaughtered lamb pub cheese? For you fans of American Werewolf in London, you will recognize the slaughtered lamb as a little pub, bar, tavern, whatever you want to call it, that the two main guys go to at the beginning of the film. So I got that coming up. Hopefully next week I will have some more Dick's Picks, some more cannon fodder, some more. They're all messed up. I don't know about a Friday Foolish. Oh, really, Chris? This is going to be a thing. I don't know. You said, what are your and Candace's thoughts on Scarefest having pieces from the Warren Museum, including the original Annabelle Raggedy Ann doll on display this year? Me personally, I don't think it's a good idea to have that stuff out on display. Now, some people might say, oh, psh, that the Warrens were full of it. But I had heard the Warrens talk about that damn doll a lot. And frankly, I believe them. And they said that there was a guy that scoffed at the doll and then he got in a motorcycle accident after he left. So, I don't really think people might think I'm totally, off my rocker, full of BS or whatever, but I just don't think it's a good idea. I don't think it's not saying anything bad about the promoters for Scarefest. But if I end up going to Scarefest, I might want to stay clear of that damn doll at least. I don't know. Maybe I can look at it from afar, but you know, again, those are my thoughts. When Candace gets on here, hopefully we can get her thoughts on it. Um, so Chris, she was under your name. So do you think she got the link, or have you heard her say anything about where she got the link? Because my stupid brain, I forgot to send her the link earlier, and I thought about it just as she sent me that message. So if you think I need to send that link to her Facebook Messenger instead of yours, I can do that. But I know that she came on here and said, she said, "This is Candace. Will you send me the link?" And I did. So I just wanted to make sure that she got it okay. Um, I haven't seen her pop on here just yet. So um, also, I'll tell you what, I will go ahead and send it to hers too, just to be on the safe side. Give me just 1 second, folks. I feel bad that I just totally forgot about that. But if anybody, oh, there's Candace. I'm gonna have to apologize to her, folks, because my brain is just went up and went bye bye. I guess. So let me go ahead and add Candace here.
Hello.
Hey, Candace, I am so sorry. I don't know. I guess my head was up my rear end
Oh,
or
that's
something.
okay. Don't worry about that. No, I don't know if you sent it to mine or not,
Mhm.
because my phone is dead. It just now came back on. I have it plugged up here.
Oh,
Um,
gotcha. Well, see, I think when you were using Chris's messenger account and you said, "Can you send me a link?" Something exploded in my brain as I was doing the intros. I was like, "Oh crap! I forgot to send Candace the link."
well,
So,
the thing is whenever when I got the computer, um, it wouldn't let me sign into my Facebook. So I
oh,
had to get onto
wow.
Chris's, and then I had sent you a message on Chris's Messenger way before
Mhm.
the stream started, but it was going
Oh,
haywire and it wasn't
gotcha.
sending. So it finally sent right that last one that you
I
responded
think it
to.
was simultaneously something exploded in my brain. Oh my gosh, I forgot.
Yeah.
And then I saw that message and I was like, "Oh man,
Yeah, so I don't even know if you had sent me one on mine or not. So,
probably
it
not. Probably not." So,
but, yeah, it was then Chris had to come in here and help me because when I put my headset on, it was just like frizzling, like something was sizzling out
oh
like a amp or
no.
something that's went bad or something, and, so he showed me how to fix it, so that's what took me so long to get on here.
That's okay. I was just kind of doing some housekeeping stuff and things like that. Um, but Chris put a question in here, and I already said what my thoughts were on it. He said, "What are your and Candace's thoughts on Scarefest having pieces from the Warren Museum, including the original Annabelle Raggedy Ann doll, on display this year?"
Well, first of all, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't
Second
either.
second of all, if that's the case, I'm not going because I
well,
have a bad, that's a no-no for me. That
Well,
very
I
much
just
no.
said I just said that I didn't think it was a good idea because some
Mm,
people may think the Warrens were full of crap, but I believe what they said, and they said that a guy made fun of that doll, and then he left, and he was in a motorcycle accident.
mm.
So I
I
was
don't
like, "No, no, no, no."
I don't fool around with stuff like that because I believe it or you can believe me or whatever. I know just as long as I know for a fact for myself, it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks, but I'm very sensitive to stuff like that. So, and that doll is something that I don't like. I don't like seeing it. I don't like, I collected Raggedy Ann stuff. And then whenever I found out about that,
Right.
I got rid of the stuff. It's just, I don't like it. It scares
Well,
me.
Raggedy Ann dolls are creepy anyway. I've always said that. I know people collect them and stuff, and I even had one at one time. But
Yeah.
there's just something, when Quint in Jaws talks about the shark's black eyes and then they
Yeah.
roll over to white whenever they're, feeding
Yeah.
on something. I mean, he says they're like a doll's eyes.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I
Like,
think of, those black, dead looking eyes, and it's
yeah.
like, I don't know. There's
Well,
something really
I
creepy.
hope that's like in a separate area that you can choose to go into, and it's just not like out in the area. Because Chris is
Yeah,
going,
I
so
think
I'm
that
gonna
would
have
be
to
a good.
go. So, I don't wanna
He
have to
says
run
he's
into
going
it.
to Scarefest either way.
I don't know, that stuff creeps me out, and I'm a big doll person, you know that I am. Like
Yeah.
I collect like the creepiest looking dolls that, because I collect like dolls from like the 60s on back.
Mhm.
Composition dolls that are made out of composition, like paper and stuff like from the early 1900s and stuff like that. I collect stuff like that. But I'll tell you this, there was a doll that I had been wanting forever. I don't know if you've ever heard of Chatty Cathy.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay. So, Patty Cathy, I collect those dolls. They're like from the 60s, 50s, 60s. And there was one, a certain one that was kind of more harder to find, and I had been wanting one for years. Okay.
Mhm.
And I usually bought my stuff off eBay. Like I could even feel stuff on eBay. If something felt like bad juju to me or something like that, I would pass it up.
Right. Oh, I don't know if I just
Can you
lost
see
Candace.
me?
Yeah, you
Well, that,
froze for a second. Now you're back. Okay.
well, I was at a Goodwill
Mhm.
and I came upon a pristine looking like Chatty Cathy doll, the kind that I was wanting, the one that I didn't have, that I had really wanted for a long time, and they were expensive online, and I just hadn't had the money to get one. Well, here's one for like $5.
Mhm.
Soon as I picked it up, I threw it back down. Seriously, you can ask Chris; he was there with me. Because the bad juju that was coming off this
Right.
thing, like the bad presence that I felt on this, I was like, no, I don't want this. This come from a bad space. I don't want this. So for me to do that, I really felt something weird with
Right.
it. So I don't know. I mean, you choose to believe in stuff like that and you don't. I believe in it. I feel it. I don't like it. And I always say, trust your gut. So
Yeah.
there you go.
I'm always fascinated by the stories
Yeah.
of the Warrens and then the cases they were involved in. And I don't, when all those Conjuring movies start coming out, and I loved all the Conjuring movies I
Yeah.
watched. But then as more and more of those came out, and they were pretty much all about cases that the Warrens had
Yeah.
been involved with. And so people start coming out of the woodwork when those started getting big and saying, the Warrens, we didn't ask them to come here. Blah, 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 blah. And and I said, just y'all hush. Y'all hush. And they got worse after both Ed and Lorraine were gone. When
Yeah.
they were
That's usually how it
deceased.
happens. Yeah.
Yeah, and it got worse. It was like, well, we didn't tell them to come here. They were only here for one night. The movies made them look like they were here. Well, they're movies.
They're
They're
movies.
Hollywood
Yeah.
movies. Just forget about that and just, just hush. That's all.
Yeah. And because I've been interested in them for a really long time,
Mhm.
especially after reading like Amityville Horror,
Yeah,
watching Amityville Horror, because they had something to do with all that too.
right,
So because they had visited that house and the DeFeo home and stuff, and
right,
then I started getting deeper into what it was, and then all those Conjuring movies, and I don't deal with possession stuff
right.
at all, but the Conjuring films, it goes against everything that am I stay away from because I
Mhm.
don't like it. It's too real for me, like The Exorcist, all that stuff. I stay away from that. But there's something about those films, the way they're made, that
Mhm.
that I actually want to see them. So I,
Yeah.
I like those films. They're very scary, very
Mhm.
scary.
Well, you know what I feel like is the difference between the Conjuring movies, excuse me, the Conjuring movies and the Exorcist movie. The Exorcist movie, my opinion, I think it's a great possession movie, but I know why some people stay away from it. I used to work with a guy in IT at the library here in Louisville that he was like, no, 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 no.
Yeah,
I stay away from all of that. That's some bad stuff there. But I think the difference between the Conjuring movies and something like The Exorcist, even though Exorcist is a very well made uh, film, is that I feel like The Exorcist is colder, darker.
yeah,
I think that the Conjuring films have heart, and that heart
yeah,
comes mostly from the Warrens.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I just, there could be some heart considered with the priests that come in The Exorcist, but you're dealing when you deal with the Warrens, you were dealing with a family that had
Yeah.
a young daughter at the time that they were doing all of these big investigations over the years. And I think when you have a real family, this was based on real people. And The Exorcist is loosely based on a
Yeah.
possession story that happened to a little boy.
Yeah.
Um, but the Warrens had a whole lifetime
Oh,
of
yeah. Of
these
a
cases, you
mhm.
know. So I feel like that's the big difference, and probably why the Conjuring movies are easier for someone to watch than something like The Exorcist. The Exorcist is all flash and in your face, and you know, and some people can't handle that.
Yeah.
It's just too much. And I
Well,
never make fun of people that can't handle it because
well,
I
with
understand.
me, it absolutely terrified me as a kid. I mean, it was something that just jumped up and about bit me in the hind end. I wasn't expecting it, and it literally, I felt like Nancy. I felt like my hair turned white
Yeah,
because it was I wasn't expecting her face to pop up there and do that, and it absolutely terrified me. And then
yeah.
anything from that, I don't know, I just could feel evil off of it, and I just didn't like it.
Which
That's something.
I could segue this into a drive-in thing, talking about The Exorcist. It's not going to be real descriptive. It's going to be funny. I promise. I'll tell this story real quick because we're talking about drive-in memories too.
Yeah.
This was my mom and dad went on a double date with a couple that they knew, and dad was driving, and mom was up in the passenger seat with beside dad, and the other couple was in the back seat. Well, they went to see The Exorcist at the drive-in. And my dad can't watch possession movies now, but back then he could. Now they give him the heebie-jeebies. He just, he can't watch them. But there they were watching The Exorcist, and all of a sudden, the guy from the second couple, the guy now, not the woman, the man, started covering his eyes. It's like, I can't stand this, I can't stand this, I can't stand this. And when Dad would tell that story, I would just he said, yeah, he said Roger was scared to death of that movie. He wanted to leave. He didn't want to watch this anymore. And
I
see, that's the thing when you're at a drive-in, you can't turn it off.
No, you can't turn it off. It's like
You can't get up and turn it off like you can a television.
yeah, no, to me, that makeup for Reagan, when she's possessed, that is the scariest makeup of all time, just because it traumatized me so bad.
Yeah, Dick Smith was amazing with that stuff. I mean, it was effective, but he
Yeah,
was just amazing. Did I ever tell you my Dick Smith story,
I don't
Candace?
I can't remember if you have or not.
So some people may have heard this story, but again, I'll try to tell this real quick. So back in the day, before we had all this access to the internet and famous people being on Facebook, and sometimes you can, get a hold of them through Facebook and have conversations with them and stuff like that. This was back way before that, and I was really into special makeup effects at that time, and I
Oh, yeah.
even thought I wanted to be a special makeup effects person. And so I was able to get Dick Smith's address, and I wrote him a letter telling him how much I respected his work and The Exorcist and other things that he did. And he wrote me back a postcard, and I don't know where that postcard is. I wish I knew where it was. It could still be at my parents' house. He wrote me a very nice postcard back and gave me his phone number
Wow. Yeah, I remember
and
you telling me that.
said, "Yeah, you can call me at any time." Now people have said when Dick Smith got a little bit older, I think he got a little paranoid about why are people contacting me. I don't want to talk to people. But at this time, he was like, "Yeah." He said, "Give me a call." He said, "We'll talk special makeup effects and stuff." and I was too scared to do it. And that's one of the greatest regrets of my life. I could have talked to the Dick Smith, the guy that influenced so many of the people that I watched, watch their effects later. People like Tom Savini and others, that were very much influenced by Dick Smith. And Dick Smith was the guy that created the blood formula that people used for, years and years and years. Um, so yeah, one of my greatest regrets in life was not calling Dick Smith up. I would do it in a minute now. Of course, the man's no longer, with us now. But if I had just had the courage that I have now, that I would have just picked up the phone and called. I mean, the man gave me his take on phone number, and I was too scared to call.
You should have done it.
I know, one of the greatest regrets of my life. Chris says, well, let's see. I don't want to miss anything. Chris says new Conjuring film in the works right now. I think I did hear that. The poet says I believe in ghosts, so I don't mess with haunted stuff. Um, Chris says The Exorcist was the first movie I ever saw at a drive-in. It was during the Fright Night Film Fest when Linda Blair was a guest, 2009. I think I was there, and I went to the Georgetown Drive-In, which will be a great segue to talk about some of my memories. I promise you guys, I'm going to let Candace talk, but this would be a great segue for me to talk a little bit about the Georgetown Drive-In, and Candace can, add any additional stuff. You've went to the Georgetown Drive-In, right? No?
No.
Oh, dang, that's a shame. Um, maybe me talking about it will make you want to go. Maybe you and Chris can go at some.
Yeah. Well, is that the one where is there somebody coming there here soon?
Well, the Skyline in Indiana, um, Mark Price is coming in a few months.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Georgetown Drive-In might have something, but I haven't seen anything just yet. Georgetown Drive-In is really close to me and Steve. That's why when the Fright Night Film Fest, which of course was in Louisville, why they had events there. And I was there in 2009 at Fright Night Film Fest, and um, I went with Kim Malay. I don't know if she still lives in Owensboro, but she lived in Owensboro at that time. And she asked me, she said, hey, me and my daughter are going to Fright Night Film Fest. Would you like to go with us? And if it had been a guy saying that, I probably wouldn't have done it. But since it was a woman with a kid, I was hoping I'd be safe. So, it turned out okay. So me and Kim Malay went to the Georgetown Drive-In, um, along with well, we didn't ride with them, but Steve drove, and Wes and Aaron and Critter Fan all loaded up into Steve's Jeep and went to the Georgetown Drive-In. Now we got there too late to see The Exorcist, I think. I think it was almost over by the time we got there, but everybody was, including Wes, because Wes had a 35 millimeter print of Madman that he had gotten, and they were going to show it at the Georgetown Drive-In. I mean, he had the big old reel to reel things that you put on the projectors. I mean, that's what he had, and he was super excited because if anybody knows Wes very well, you know that he loves the film Madman.
I painted him a big old madman picture.
That's right. Yeah. I remember you telling me that now. Um, so we all kind of met up there, and it was so crowded that night because of all the stuff going on because of Fright Night Film Fest. We didn't get to drive into the drive-in. We had to park the cars in the lot and walk up that gravel road to where the screens were. And I think they have 2 or 3 screens at Georgetown Drive-In. I know they got at least 2. And so we ended up watching the last part of the G.I. Joe movie. I think it was the G.I. Joe. And then after G.I. Joe was over, some people left and they said, okay, y'all that are staying for Madman can go back and get your cars and drive them into the area where the screens were. Because at first there were just too many people for you to be able to do that. So we all made the walk back, got in our vehicles and went back, and Kim parked beside Steve's Jeep so I could look over and see all them and the Jeep over there carrying on over the Madman movie. But it was a lot of fun. It was I still think The Burning is a better movie than Madman, and Wes will argue till the end of time with me on that, but that's okay. But Madman's just one of those goofy, fun, horror films. So we had a lot of fun doing that, and then um, in succeeding years, after me and Steve got together, we would just go on our own to Georgetown Drive-In. Steve would say, "Hey, Dana, you're coming to see me this weekend. They got something going on at the Georgetown Drive-In. You want to go?" And we would go, in the fall. And the great thing about the fall, getting closer to Halloween, the Georgetown Drive-In does is I think they call it the creepy cruise in now, and you come there and you watch a couple of scary movies, 2 or 3 scary movies, and you can get ribeye steak sandwiches and chili in this 100-year-old cast
Oh,
iron
yeah, I remember
kettle.
you telling me that.
Yeah, and Uncle Jesse, and I'm guessing the older woman is his wife. But they make it. I don't know what's going to happen when those two pass away, because I mean they ain't spring chickens no more. So I guess there won't be ribeye steak sandwiches and chili in a 100-year-old kettle unless they can get
Yeah, there
somebody.
could be somebody that works there that's gonna carry it over, hopefully.
Yeah.
Because these drive-ins are starting to frizzle out, and, I think there's gonna come a time, just like bowling alleys and skating rinks and stuff like that, because our area, um, was just filled with all that stuff, like skating rinks, bowling alleys. I mean, that was stuff that people love doing, going to the movies. I think there's gonna come a time when people are going to be, because this 90s stuff is starting to come back really
Mhm.
hot and heavy, and I think these kids are gonna start wanting to do stuff like that more. So I'm
Yeah.
thinking, I'm hoping at least, that it's gonna work out in the old people's favor, and these
Right. Yeah.
drive-ins and stuff are gonna start getting more popular, and they're gonna start coming back and stuff. So,
Mhm.
mark my words, if I ever win the lottery or become rich and famous, I will put a drive-in in my area.
And I'm gonna be Candace's partner if she
I'm
gets to
gonna
do
get
the.
I'm gonna get Dana to come down and help me curate it, and make 100-year-old chili. We'll make her very own 100-year-old tortilla soup. That's
There
what
we go. Yeah, that'll be all. We'll have our own spin on it. Yeah. So I promise I'm gonna let Candace tell some more stories, but I just want to show a few pictures of the Georgetown Drive-In. Um, People that have been to the Georgetown Drive-In, you will know this entrance and how this looks when you. Of course, they got the fireworks over here back to back with the screen that's closest, but everybody in recent years will remember this drive-in sign, and it has the classic car at the top of it, and you have this big sign that says entrance. And so this is the ticket booth right up here. You can see cars going into that area there. um Dawn of the Planet of the Apes was playing, Transformers was playing whenever this picture was taken. So, but that's the entrance. Um, Here's the outside of the snack bar or the concession stand. I think Candace is on the call, um, so I love their concession area. The concession area is like a classic, what you would think of a classic concession stand area for a drive-in would be. And so I also wanted to show you guys and gals a portion of this is what the inside of the concession stand looks like at the Georgetown Drive-In. They have hot dogs, they have nachos, of course, they have popcorn, they have uh, soda, pops, soft drinks, or whatever you want to call them. They have just, they have candy. I think you can even see some M&Ms over here in this case here. So the popcorn's very good. That's usually what I get. I get a popcorn and a drink, and then I will also, if Uncle Jesse's there with his wife and they've got the chili and the ribeye sandwiches, Steve always gets a ribeye steak sandwich, and I get the chili. Uh, and one of the last pictures I want to show. This is one of the main screen. I think this is the main screen, the first screen you will see when you come in to the Georgetown Drive-In. You can see the road coming from the ticket booth right here. That's the road you drive up to. And usually me and Steve watch movies on this particular screen here. You can see they still have the speakers. The speakers still work. You can do that, or you can do it the more modern way, and they tell you where to tune in your radio to in your car so that you can hear it that way. So you got two different. If you're old school, they still got working speakers. But if you don't really want to have your car when it's cold, you usually don't want to have your car window down because you're going to be wanting to run the heat in there for a little bit. So if it's summertime and you've got your car window rolled down, you can prop one of those speakers up in your car window. Just don't forget to put it back on its stand before you pull away. That was something that the old drive-ins used to remind you. Please replace the speaker before leaving, because so many people had started to drive off and jerk the
Oh
speaker right
goodness.
out there. Yeah. My dad said that was a big thing that happened, back in the day. All right. So I'm going to read what Chris put in here, and then I'm going to shut up a little bit and let Candace talk here. Chris said the last time he went to the Georgetown Drive-In, it was with CJ, and we watched Nightmare on Elm Street and Pet Cemetery. Well, those are two really cool ones to watch. And he says, I like Madman, but I can't understand how someone would think it's better than The Burning. That's insane to me. Well, Wes thinks it's better than The Burning. Unless he's just yanking my chain,
I think I've stated this before, but I like Mad Men better than The Burning.
which is okay. I mean, and it's okay that Wes does too. I, Wes says the only thing The Burning's got going for it is the raft scene,
Yeah.
which
I'm not no,
that is the key scene. But
to be honest though, I'm not a huge fan of either one.
right,
I don't dislike them, but I'm not a huge fan of either one. Um, like some people are, but I do like them. I like
hmm
them both. I just think that Madman's a little bit more, and I mean this in a good way, a little bit more goofier.
yeah,
Well,
it is. I mean, it. We could have a whole stream of just talking about stuff with Madman, and we might do that sometime. Me and Candace might, heck, we might get on here and compare
yeah, we'll do
Madman
it.
and The Burning for an hour or something. Um, Ben says my dad took me to the drive-in to see the Ice Pirates when I was in third grade. One of the trailers was Children of the Corn. Can you imagine going to see Ice Pirates and there being a trailer for Children of the Corn?
That would be awesome getting to see Children of the Corn in like a big cornfield or something like that. I'm sure they've
Oh
done
man,
that before, but
that would, yeah, have a great big screen in the middle of a
Mhm.
cornfield. You talk about atmosphere.
Oh yeah.
That would
It's kind of
work.
like how they have like the Jaws showing, like with the big floating screens and stuff in the middle
Yeah.
of the water and stuff. I think that's cool. I think stuff like that is unique and cool.
Me
Uh,
and Steve went to see Carrie at a midnight showing. at the Baxter Avenue Theater. Excuse me, folks. I'm drinking this Welch's Grape Ghost energy drink too fast, I think. But they used to go all out for that stuff a few years back. So they actually brought a bucket out that didn't have like blood in it, but it had red streamers, and they threw it on the audience. And they would do fun things like that. So, I, it can work both ways, but I think the driving experience is a little more exciting
Yeah.
um, than to be in a hard top theater that inside bull stuff, as Joe Bob would call it. Joe Bob's a driving kind of guy.
Yeah. Well, it's like I've stated before. The thing with the drive-in is that you have a little bit more freedom to do. I mean, you can sit and you can kind of talk with each other, and you don't have to remain like super quiet. You can sit how you want, put
Mm.
blankets down, bring pillows. You can sit outside. You can sit in your car. You're kind of more comfortable. You can
You
take off
don't
your
have
shoes.
to worry about your kids getting upset and disturbing
Yeah.
other people with the movie. And
Yeah, and, I think that was always the experience. I remember, as a kid, one of my favorite, times, besides, my first time seeing a movie, which was the Flintstone movie, is we went and watched, the Addams Family movie
Mhm.
in the drive-in, and I remember that because it was so cool getting to watch that, like, I don't know, there was other kids there, and, people were just like, just I don't know, it brings people together, like, you don't know people,
Right.
but, you make friends and stuff, and I remember that. I remember watching the Addams Family movie. When did that come out? Like, 93,
That
I
sounds
think?
right.
93, 92, something like that. I can't remember. But I was a kid and, sitting there eating popcorn and, watching it with other kids that I didn't know, and we would, like, just laugh and just which I love that movie anyway. That's, like, one of my favorite, movies from the '90s is the Addams Family movie, and the Family Values too. I'm a big fan of the Addams Family. But, it's kinda like the Munsters, like, when it comes to, like, the TV show between the Addams Family and the
Mhm.
Munsters is my favorite. But when it comes between the Addams Family show and the movies are my favorite. And, that was
Oops.
really
Sorry
cool.
about that, folks.
That was a really cool experience getting to do that, and I remember we made these, like, little hands out of gloves, and
Uh-huh.
we took them with us, and, like, the kids that we was sitting around and stuff, they was like, "What you got? You got thing?" I was like, "Yeah," and that was really fun. I think we actually went and seen the second one in the drive-in too.
Mhm.
Chris said that it come out in '91, so I was really little. So the one in '93, the Addams Family Values, that's the one where we made the little hands, and
Uh-huh.
then we went there, and they had, like, this Addams Family, like, wrap or something that was on the movie, and I
Mhm.
remember I remember I said, I want the cassette of this movie. I want the soundtrack." So, I went and I got the soundtrack, of the Addams Family Values. So, that was really fun getting I actually seen both of them in the drive-in. So, that was cool. But there was I don't know if you've ever experienced this or not, because Chris didn't get to grow up going to the drive-in. Like he
Oh,
said, the
that's
first
a
time
shame.
yeah, first time that he ever went to the drive-in was to see The Exorcist. What year did he say that was? Like 2009?
Yeah, 2009.
Um, so you got to grow up going to the drive-in just like me.
Yeah.
So did you ever experience the trunkers?
I never experienced it firsthand, but it's something I heard about over
Mm,
time. It's not something I witnessed, but it's something I heard about secondhand.
yeah. So the one drive-in that we would go to a lot, it was like 20 minutes away from our house.
Mhm.
Um, they would do it by a carload. Like so many in your car, and they however many you had in your car in your vehicle, they would charge you by that.
Mm.
So a lot of the times people would pull up with like either because if you had a truck, they would look in the truck, like the bed of the truck, make sure there was nobody hiding under something.
Right.
Like, like Ernest Saves Christmas, whenever
Mhm.
Ernest acts like that old man, he's trying to sneak in Santa Claus, and he says, "They're
Right.
pythons, they're pythons."
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah,
Yeah, it shows Santa Claus underneath there, like like shaking a rattle or something.
yeah.
That,
I got these snakes. I need to get them
they're
in there.
possums. That's one of my favorites. I love that. But anyway, they would check and make sure somebody wasn't doing that. But with
Mhm.
people with trunks, and back in the '90s, especially the early '90s, the cars were huge
Yeah,
and long. So here are these people pulling up with these big Caprice Classic cars and stuff like that, with these big huge trucks and stuff.
yeah.
And you'd see it would get dark, and you would see somebody sneaking around, act like they was getting something, and you see them just slithering out the back, and they would sneak in that way.
Mhm.
And I'm like, because I remember one time we were sitting there talking amongst ourselves, and I remember the grown-ups were, "How do they stand to be in there? I mean, are they not, like,
Yeah,
smothering?"
there's no way I could do anything like that now, as claustrophobic as I am. I'd be
Yeah,
"Get me the hell out of here." I can't
yeah,
do this.
that was crazy, and some of my favorite times was around the 4th of July, where they would have the fireworks. Did you ever go to those, where they would have the fireworks at the
It
drive-in?
seems like I remember that maybe 1 or 2 times.
So, one movie that I did see at the drive-in, which was really cool because there was actually a drive-in scene in the movie, which
Mhm.
was Twister.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. So, and I remember we was sitting, me and my aunt and her husband at the time, and I think her probably both of her boys and some other people was with us. And I remember us sitting there watching that at the drive-in, and was like, "That's so weird. It's got a drive-in scene in it, and here we are
Exactly.
watching a movie about a twister." And it was just one of those days where it kind of looked bad anyway. It's like, what about if that happened to us? So,
Yeah, and
we did.
I think they're urban legends. I don't think it's actually happened, but there have been stories passed around since Twister came out that there
Yeah,
had been people really watching it at the drive-in and a tornado did come.
that would be so awful.
Mhm.
But yeah, I always loved going to the drive-in. I mean, that was something that I wish I could do more of, because, like I said, it's probably my favorite pastime. Like
Mm.
to do with the kids and stuff like that. And I mean, they've got to experience it, because we used to take them to see the movies. I can't remember what all we went and seen. Now, I know me and Chris have went and seen some of the Conjuring films at the drive-in. I can't remember which ones we seen.
I don't think I've
Um,
seen any of the Conjuring movies at the drive-in. I wish I could
yeah.
say that.
So we went and seen some of those. Now I remember one time, and I see, my mom can't remember the name. I can't remember the name. We can't even remember, like, where it was. I'm gonna have to ask my aunt next time that I talk to her, and ask her where our drive-in that we always went to was.
Mhm.
Because my dad's not here anymore. My grandparents aren't here anymore. We can't ask. So I'm gonna actually send her a message. I forgot to do it. I was going to do it last week so I would know. But we can't remember. My mom can't remember either. But once I find out if she remembers, even if we're not doing one of these drive-in specials, I can
Oh,
let
that
you
would
know, bring it up. I'm sure that's fine. But I remember one time being at the drive-in. I cannot remember what movie it was. It was probably something I wasn't interested in. And we went there with somebody, and there was this couple next to us. And the only thing that I remember about it, like I said, I don't remember what movie it was or anything like that, but I was pretty small, but old enough to know. There was a couple beside of us in the drive-in. It was like sitting in a car, and you could tell that they were kind of getting romantic, like something you would see like in Happy. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And we all were like giving them the side eye, kind of watching them and stuff like that, because
yeah.
you really are. You can see, we're kind of sitting in the back, and all of a sudden, somebody from behind, some woman from behind, just comes and opens up this door to this driver's side and
Oh,
starts yanking that guy out and
oh.
beating him, beating him half to death. So there was a fighting. There was somebody there with somebody cheating on somebody.
That's what I was gonna say. Somebody was having an affair and they got
So
caught.
I'm like, you know, and then here I wish I was old enough to have known what I was watching and stuff like that. But I was pretty young at that time. But I was thinking, what's going on here? Because I didn't know. I was too young to realize what was going on. But I remember them saying, "Oh, somebody just got mad. Somebody was out when they wasn't supposed to." be." But as a grown up, I know what's going on and stuff
Oh
now.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, but
I
that's
mean,
some crazy stuff.
I mean, I people might find this hard to believe, but since Candace brought it up, it made me think about that. People might be wondering, does Dana have any? I hate to put it this way, but nookie stories to tell about at the drive-in. I know I don't. I don't think me and Steve have ever kissed at the drive-in. We may have held hands or something like that when we were dating, but I have no makeout stories to
Now,
tell about the drive-in.
me and Chris have because there was a point where we were going to the drive-in all the time. I mean, there's probably times when we got a little, you know, you're dating, but
Right.
nothing to the point where it's going to be disturbing the next the person in the next
Right.
door
Y'all
over.
wasn't getting noisy over there.
No, no. I can't even remember how many times. It's until I know we've seen a bunch of like the Minion movies together
Right.
with the kids and the Shrek movies and stuff like that's always fun, especially when you got kids and you take them and let them enjoy stuff like that. But um, I don't know, Dana. I was sitting there trying to think of all the movies that I've seen in the drive-in, and I've seen a ton. But one movie that I know that I seen in theater, and it's just one of those off the wall ones.
Mhm.
Was um, Flubber with Robin Williams,
Yeah.
and I remember we went. My dad liked Flubber, the one with Jerry Lewis, so we
Mhm.
went to watch it, and they were giving out like these promotional, like little promotional, like Flubber type stuff there. I remember that. That was pretty cool. But I don't think my dad ended up going to that. I think he was the one that was wanting to go, but my dad, he just ended up not going. So
Mhm.
I think I went with the rest of the family and stuff like that. But that was a cool one to see in theater. Um, I don't actually think I've seen that since I've seen it in the theater. That's probably the only time I ever seen that. Have you ever seen it?
I
Flubber?
I know of it, but I'm trying to remember if I've seen it, and I can't recall.
Well, it's a remake from Jerry Lewis. Jerry Lewis. My
Right.
dad, my dad was a huge, huge Jerry Lewis fan. Me too. I'm more of a Dean Martin fan, but I love Dean Martin with Jerry Lewis.
Mhm.
And like I said, it was my dad that was wanting to actually go watch that, but he something must have come up and he didn't go. I don't think he ended up going to that. But I remember getting that little flubber promotional, like little toy or whatever from there. So they used to do that stuff, sometimes you would go to just like the regular theater, the drive-in was sometimes like, hey, here's this something promotional. So I don't know if your drive-in ever did that, but um, they would
I
sometimes
don't
give
I
out like
don't recall, but that makes me think of some of the promotional gimmicks that they've had over
popcorn
the
bags,
years.
stuff like
Uh,
that.
they've had the vomit bags. When Mark of
Yeah.
the Devil came out, which is a movie about women being accused of being witches, and they torture them. And I've seen Mark of the Devil. I don't know how many of y'all have seen Mark of the Devil. I think my parents, that was one they got to see at a drive-in, but that was back in the 70s. So I was born in 76, and this would have been earlier than that. So I wouldn't have known anything about that one. But I don't remember if mom and dad got promotional vomit bags, but there were some made, and I ended up buying one of them years after the fact. And it had the image from Mark of the Devil where they were pulling the woman's tongue out, and they stretch women on racks, pull their tongues out, and there's like, confess you are a witch, or we're gonna torture
Yeah.
you more. Um, but Mark of the Devil was one of the big ones that had the vomit bag uh, gimmick to it, and those vomit bags might actually go for quite a bit
Now,
now.
Chris has a vomit bag. I don't know what it's from. If he's still on here, he might can tell us what it's from. But he has one of those promotional vomit bags, and um, it seems like they made them for. I don't know. Did they make them for I don't know if they made them for Reanimator or
They
Return of the
may
Living
have.
Dead. There was some I seen somebody had some at one of these conventions. They had them like in a glass thing,
Mhm.
like to show them off or whatever. They wasn't for sale. Um, and I remember that they had. I can't remember if it was. It was one of those movies like Reanimator or Return of the Living Dead, stuff like that.
Last House on the Left may have had them
Could
back
have.
in the day.
I'd like to know what the one that Chris has. It might be a newer film, like maybe from the 2000s or something like that. I can't remember. But I know he has one.
I even made my own for, we had, or I did this drive-in promotion thing when I was working at my first library job, and people bought their tickets. They would get their tickets in advance, and I made tickets that looked like movie tickets. I made the vomit bags. Um, I made little toe tag things that said how the person died, and it was like they were decapitated or they were cut up with a chainsaw or whatever. And I showed the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Army of Darkness. We had a movie licensing agreement at the library, and those two movies were part of that movie licensing, so I could show those publicly. And I did, I had popcorn. Mom helped me, and the girl that was helping me popped many, many bags of movie theater microwave popcorn. We put it in these great big bags to keep it warm. And then we would actually put them in littler bags and hand them out to people
Yeah,
who had
yeah.
candy and everything.
They do that at our local library. They show movies every week and stuff like that. I don't really go to our library right now. I mean, that's something that you know I won't get into. But I love our library. I think they do a lot of stuff for the community, and the movie thing is a really good thing that they do. And there's a lot of kids, especially, that get to benefit from that. But they show horror movies and stuff like that too at the library and stuff. And I always thought that was cool. Always, and they do like little promotional things and stuff like that. Like kind of like how you're. What did Chris say?
He
Generic.
said, mine is not from any movie in particular. It's just a kind of generic horror vomit bag.
Okay, he must got it from
But
something,
that's
some
still
kind of
cool,
convention or
though.
something. Yeah, I knew I couldn't remember a movie that it was from, so that's probably the reason why. But yeah, I mean, I've been to the drive-in more times than I could count, especially when I was a kid. But like I said, I don't have really anything in particular. I know we went and seen Hook in,
Hmm.
in the drive-in. That was really cool to see in the drive-in. I love that movie anyway. It's something that I'm planning to do with the boys. Um, show them Hook, which they've already seen it, but I want to do all like the feast that they have.
Right. Yeah. You were talking to me about that.
Yeah, like with the imaginary pie and stuff. I'm still planning that. I want to do that with them. I seen the what's it called? Muppets. My gosh, I've just had a blank. The Muppet Treasure Island. I seen that at
Oh,
the
okay.
drive-in. I seen that at the drive-in, and I think that was. Let's see, was that the first one I seen? Seems like I seen another Muppet movie at the drive-in. So it was the Muppet Take, the not Muppets Take Manhattan. It was Muppet Treasure Island, and then later on, I got to see the Muppet from space. And
Oh,
I'm a
yeah.
huge Muppets fan, so that was something that really, um, I was excited about because me and Chris are huge Jim Henson fans. We love the Muppets. We collect the Muppet stuff. And I remember around the time that Muppet Treasure Island came out, McDonald's was having promotional like Happy Meals and stuff like that. And they had like the little and they did Hook too. They had the little Hook toys whenever Hook came out as well. And I remember seeing Hook for the first time at the drive-in and just being so fascinated by
Yeah.
that film because I like Peter Pan, but there was something about Hook and seeing it under the stars
Yeah.
that just kind of made you feel like, especially being a little kid watching that, um, kind of feel like you were, you know, with them, like you were a part of the
Right.
Lost Boys and stuff, that you was part of that whole crew, and that was really fun. I remember that, but nothing in the drive-in or anything like that, but, today I was watching a movie that I've not seen in a really long time, and I forgot how much I loved it, and that is Chances Are with Sybil
I think
Shepherd,
I
Robert
think
Downey
I've seen
Jr.
that, but it's been a long time.
Yeah. It's a really good movie. I think it won a bunch of awards. Had a really good soundtrack to it. It's got "Forever Young" by, Rod Stewart in it, and
Oh, I love that song.
it's got a really good song by Cher and, Peter Cetera of Chicago.
Mhm.
But it's got, what's his name? My gosh, what's his name? It's got, Robert Downey Jr., Sybil Shepherd, and I'm not a huge Sybil Shepherd fan, but I really like her in that movie, and I think they casted her really well in that. What it is it the guy passes away,
Mhm.
and his wife is really in love with him, and they're just kind of newly married, and his best friend's in love with his wife, but he dies, but then he comes back reborn into Robert Downey Jr.'s character, but they
Mhm.
forgot to give him his shot to make him forget his past life. So whenever he meets them again, it all comes rushing back, and that's a really good film. If you've never seen it, I think you would like it. It's called Chances Are. It come out like in '89 or something like that.
Mhm.
But I don't know. It's just one of those films I didn't forget about it, but I just hadn't watched it in a really long time. So I was excited about that. Just figured I'd share that.
Oh yeah, I always like, kind of being reintroduced to movies because when you said that, I was like, I know I've seen that movie, but
Yeah,
it's been a long time. Now it's going to make me want to seek that back out and watch it again. So I always love, you know, uh, being reintroduced or
yeah.
my interest being renewed in movies. I was going to show a few pictures from the Skyline Drive-In, which I've also been to. Um, and if Candace doesn't mind, was
No,
there
that's
anything
fine.
else you want to bring up right now, Candace?
No.
Okay. So if y'all will just permit me to have these images flash up on the screen real quickly, because when I first do them, they want to pop right up there instead of just waiting for me to um, add them. Let's see. I think there's just three of them here. All right. So the Skyline Drive-In is one that me and Steve had been to a couple of times before. And one time we went to see, I think it was not a double feature. I think it was a triple feature. And we got back home very, very late. And we had just adopted Brink, our dog. It was what, 2014. And me and Steve had been married about a year or a little over a year at that point. And we just had Linnea, our little dachshund, and we wanted to get her a friend. So we we had adopted Brick, and then we were going to turn right around and go to the drive-in. It's not a real good idea to leave a new dog in the house when you don't. I mean, she didn't destroy anything, but we felt kind of bad about leaving her and Linnea alone, and us going off to the Skyline Drive-In, but we had kind of already planned to go do it, so we went on and went, and I think that was the time where we saw The Gates of Hell was one of the movies, and I remember that a friend of ours, he just happened to be his vehicle was right beside ours, and this particular version of Gates of Hell, and some of y'all might have um, heard me talk about this before, was missing the Bob head drill scene, which is a big scene in the Gates of Hell, or City of the Living Dead is the other title for it. And this was missing the head drill scene. So I was like, I looked at Steve. I was like, where'd the Bob head drill scene go? I've been waiting all my life to see this at the drive-in and see it, the head drill scene on the big screen. And right at the same time that I was carrying on about that, our friend rode down his window and yelled over it, "What the hell happened to the Bob Head drill scene?" I think he might have used more colorful language, but I'm going to, say he may have said where the F was the Bob Pedro scene. But anyway, I was like, I don't know. I was like, yeah, I wanted to see that too. But we still had a good time. And so the second time we went, we camped out. We brought our tent and we stayed all night. And Steve said he'll never do that again because he didn't sleep very well or anything else. But I had a ball, at it. I stayed up all night and I went to the concession stand because I had to go to the restroom. And when I went into the concession area, there was Jim Wynorski. And if y'all don't know who Jim Wynorski is, he's a director of a lot of low budget horror films, things like Chopping Mall and stuff like that. A lot of his films have a lot of the female flesh in them, if, as Joe Bob would say, if you know what I mean, and I think you do. He has a lot of those films, but he also does a lot of schlocky, low budget horror films. They're just fun to watch. They're not really good films. They're just fun to have a good time with. So I saw Jim Wynorski and he smiled and waved at me. He said, "How you doing?" And and I was like, "I just saw Jim Wynorski." And when I got back to the tent, Steve was like half out of it. I said, "Steve, you know who I saw in the concession area?" He's like, "Who?" And I said, "Jim Wynorski." "Oh, that's great." And he rolled over and went back to sleep. But anyway, I was excited about it. So I'll show a few pictures of the skyline. Um, this is the big skyline drive-in sign that you will see when you go there. This is actually 4 pictures. There's another look at the sign. There's one of their screens. There's where you pay your money for your tickets to get in there. And I believe this here is the concession area, if I'm thinking correctly. Now, I was never here when they had this, or I don't recall this ever being painted on the concession area or the Skyline Cafe when I was there. But this was really cool, so I thought I would show it because we've got Frankenstein, we've got, or the Frankenstein monster rather, we got Freddy Krueger, Dracula. Looks like the mummy back there. Is that the mummy back there, Candace?
It looks like it. And the Wolfman
And the Wolfman.
and Ash
Yep, you
fighting,
got
fighting
Ash back there.
somebody. I don't know who he's fighting.
I'm not sure who he's fighting either.
And then looks like like a King Kong type creature and Godzilla type creature or dragon.
Oh,
Pete's dragon gone
yeah,
rogue.
yeah, Peach Dragon. But I just thought that was a cool picture to kind of show, even though I never remembered actually seeing that. So I don't
that
know.
that King Kong creature kind of looks like a munchie.
He does, yeah,
Or one of the most munching dolls, that sucks their fingers. You know what I'm talking about? I forget what
yeah,
they're called. Yeah. That's cute. I'd like to still know who he's fighting back there though.
yeah. I don't know.
Eh,
It's somebody.
somebody.
Um, but I just want to remind everybody, though, of course, since we're speaking of the skyline in August, I think it's like August 22nd, they're going to be having a special thing there. They're going to be showing Trick or Treat from 1986, and Mark Price is going to be there live and in person.
I'm gonna have to tell my friend Shay about that.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
His
Friend
mom is
Shay's
really sick though, so I don't know, what that's gonna look like for him, but I would love for him to go.
right. Uh, Chris says that's supposed to be Godzilla and King Kong, just generic versions. I'll take that. I mean, that's kind of what we were thinking, wasn't it,
Yeah.
Candace? That they're just kind of like generic versions of that. Um, Maybe they were afraid of getting in trouble if they had too many well-known people on there or characters on there. They were missing Jason though. They didn't have Jason
Mhm.
Voorhees on there. Um,
I
and
tell you that, like talking about these drive-in like things though, because I've been planning to do it for a while anyway. Because I used to have a home theater. I spent a lot of money, like thousands of dollars, back whenever I could spend money, on anything I wanted. I didn't have a family. I lived at home,
right,
with my
I
parents. I had a
remember
good
those
job.
days too.
Had a good job and I could do whatever I wanted. So I actually, turned a room in our house into it was my bedroom. But I had a huge bedroom. So I turned a portion of it into a home theater. And it was awesome. The very first movie that I ever watched on it was Evil Dead 2. It was Evil Dead 2.
That's cool.
Mhm. Yeah, so that was really awesome. But I've been planning since we have a huge backyard and like we have a backyard, but we have a hill that kind of goes up and then it comes on to our concrete area. That's like a big, huge patio. And you can park your car there. And we got like a fireplace now, and we got chairs around it. But you can also turn your car around and look down into our huge backyard.
Uh-huh.
So I have been planning on putting a screen up back there. And I was wanting a permanent screen, but then Chris is like, I don't want to put a permanent screen or anything. But now they got these huge, like, blow up screens.
Right.
So that makes me want to do that even more and have these drive-in nights where we can sit around the fire or sit in the. You can even sit in the car if you wanted to. Like get like Bluetooth speakers and stuff like that because
Oh
they have these
yeah.
like rocks that you can get that have like speakers in them and you can keep them
Oh,
outside.
that's cool. I didn't know about that.
So we could get those rocks and kind of put it around where we're sitting,
Mhm.
and have it hooked up to the projector, and that just makes me want to do that even more. And my goal for this summer is to do that. So that's what I'm planning. I'm planning on it,
I'm
and then
guessing I'm guessing that me and Steve will finally use our screen this year. Steve says we're going to go out there at some point. We're going to get the projector out and get the screen out and get our chairs out there. And
oh,
so,
I'd be doing it every day, and then like everybody from the road that's in front of our house, they could, what are they doing over there? They gonna blow up screen.
yeah, right.
No, that's just that's the life for me. Like that's what
Me
I
too.
enjoy, and we can go out there and watch. We may have to kind of pick and choose and not put anything too graphic on there because I mean, if we do live by a road, so you
That
don't want some
was
little kid.
that was what me and Steve had when we were picking the movie when we did that last year. And we projected it on our garage door, which is I can see the garage right out the window from this back room. But the thing is, the neighbors across the road have kids, so it's not like we could show anything with a lot of sex or a lot of nudity. Some kids step out there to play basketball, look over there and see these great big boobies out there. Might might cause some problems. Yeah,
Well, yeah, I could, but that's like my grandpa. He grew up next to the outdoor theater. So, like, I think I told this last time, he would sit up on his hill up by his house and he would watch movies for free.
yeah.
He could look down and see the naked scenes or whatever they have. Because I asked him, he's like, "Yeah, they did."
Uh,
Because even back then, like in the 60s, early 60s and stuff, there was still stuff that was naughty, especially for the time.
right.
And, so yeah, he would sit up there and watch them. So you could actually see these screens and stuff from like houses and the road and stuff. Because the one that we used to go by all the time, the one that we used to go to that was like 20 minutes away, you could see it from the road.
Right.
So whatever they were projecting up there, it didn't matter what it was, you could
Yeah.
see it from the road.
Well,
So I don't know.
when I was talking, and I think I talked about this last time, the fact that Owensboro, Kentucky, um, at one time had 3 different drive-in movie theaters, and one of them was adult oriented. And you know what I mean by that. And so I'm wondering, you know, you've got an adult film playing on this huge screen. How are you not going to keep some kid from seeing that? And if you're talking about hardcore stuff, you're not talking about just a flash of a boob or, something like that. It's
Unless it was just strategically like put to where it absolutely could not be seen from the
and
outside.
maybe they did because I mean, my parents wouldn't have took me to an adult drive-in. Um,
Yeah.
so I don't even know where that one was. I thought it was called the Cardinal Drive-In. I thought that was the adult one, but I never saw it. I don't even know where it was. In
Being like
all
an adult oriented uh drive-in, you would think it would be called something like the titty twister drive-in or something like that,
yeah,
or the titty
yeah,
tassel or something like that
yeah,
instead of like kid.
something more. Maybe they were afraid to call it something more risque. I don't know. Chris says those kids will be fine. I don't know. I might have been traumatized for life if I saw some of that hardcore stuff when I was real young. I mean,
I mean,
my
they could even call it like the jackhammer drive-in. I mean, that would be more appropriate.
they could have called it the Harry Hard Hat drum. I mean,
The Harry Bush. There's kids watching
well,
this, I'm
we're
sure.
sitting here coming up with all kinds of names for the adult driving. Oh boy. And my mom says, I know this isn't technically driving related, but and I'm not trying to tell tales out of school or anything like that, but my mom told me that when I was too young to remember, apparently, or maybe even before I was born, my dad went to a peep. She called it a peep show, and I said, "Mom, are you sure it's a peep show? Because what I know about peep shows that I've seen on films like Nightmares on the Damaged Brain or something, a peep show is where guys primarily go in to one of those sleazy places. I mean, ugh, just it's nasty thinking about it because you know what guys do, and some guys do in places like that. But it's like the theaters on 42nd Street, and your shoes would stick to the floor and stuff
Ooh.
like
It's the Pee Wee Herman kind of theater.
that. Yeah,
And I
right.
say that out of jest. I love Paul.
Yeah. Paul
I mean,
Rubens. I like Paul Rubens really well too. But yeah, it's that kind of thing, and it. But if my dad really went to a peep show, I said, what I know about those is it's where you pay to watch a woman, take off her clothes and touch herself and do all kinds of things for so long. And then a door slide or, a window slides back down and you can't see it anymore unless you want to pay more money. And sometimes if you pay the woman that's doing this show for you enough money, she'll like stick her boobs up in your face or whatever. It's kind of like a combination uh strip club and sex show. I mean, basically. Um so
hey,
the
Chris.
O in out.
He's he's go in and out. Ah, you're
Oh
bringing in
man.
some Clockwork Orange in there.
Yeah, that's
Go
what
in
I
and
was
out.
thinking. We're bringing Clockwork Orange in the mix now. Yeah, the Odin. Oh my gosh, we could get really creative with some of these names for these drive-ins, but
I just think that we're a little bit perverted.
I think there's a little bit of perversion in everybody. It's just some people let it out a little bit more than others. Um, but we try to tone it down when we're doing streams. We don't want to go, all out.
Oh,
But
trust me, we could be worse.
oh, we could be a lot worse. And I do set these streams as not for kids. Now, if you are on a stream with me and you bring your kid in here, that's all on you. But or you are in the chat and you have your kid listening. Hey, again, that's all on you. I didn't tell you to. So, um, but we try to be, you know, semi respectful, or you know, however you want to. But we are adults here,
Yeah.
so sometimes we're going to talk about adult things. But um, so Candace, I know we didn't want to go too much over an hour, so um, I didn't know if you had anything else you wanted to bring up or
There's
say.
CJ.
Or,
There's CJ. Say hi,
yeah.
CJ, to Dana.
Hi, CJ.
That's who I was trying to talk to a while ago. I had got a phone call from him, and I heard doorbells going off in there. So I was like, "Was he trying to get
I
in?"
saw him walk back behind you. I thought that looks like CJ, and
Yeah,
I was
he
kind of
can't.
thinking that was him.
He can't hear you. I got these headphones on. He's in here. Must be trying to get something.
Well, at least I waved at him, so
Yeah, he said, "Hey, Dana." I don't know if you heard that or not.
I thought I heard something.
He said, "Have a good day." That's my brother, you guys. If you've never seen CJ, that's CJ. And also for all
CJ's
too.
a very nice guy, folks. I've met CJ a couple times. I think I saw him at least once at a convention with
Once
you.
or twice. Once
Yeah.
or twice, yeah.
One time I think when he dressed like Ash one time.
Yeah, yeah, and then another time he wasn't. I
Yeah,
think one time was at Scarefest, and the other time was maybe Fright Night or something like that. I can't remember.
probably was.
It's untelling where it was, but
Uh,
yeah.
the poet, you say, name a movie you would have liked to seen at a drive-in that you never got to. I'm trying to.
Hard Day's Night.
Oh, that's a good one, Candace. And mine's probably going to be a horror movie, but I'm trying to think of one that I haven't. You know what? Dawn of the Dead at the drive-in. I've seen Dawn of the Dead at the theater, but I would really like to see Dawn of the Dead, or at least one of George Romero's zombie films, at a drive-in.
The
I-
Shining.
Oh, The Shining would be good. Yeah,
Yeah,
any
I
of
could
the
go on
classic
and
ones.
on.
Carrie, I mean,
Popcorn, Harry. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, those are the kind of stuff that screams drive-in to me. Uh, I'm trying to remember. I've seen Jaws at the theater too, but can't recall if we may have seen Jaws at the Georgetown Drive-In, but I'm not 100% sure. I saw Halloween at the Georgetown Drive-In, and that was John Carpenter's original classic.
Ghostbusters, the Ghostbusters films, the
Hmm.
original two. Those would have been a good watch at
Oh
the
yeah,
theater.
Debbie Does Dallas, Chris. Oh man,
That belongs at that In and Out drive-in that you that
yeah.
that
There's that perversion coming out again a little bit. Um, you know, I would like to see The Exorcist at the drive-in. I know Candace is saying, "Ugh," you know, I
no.
didn't get to in 2009, but you know, I would still like to. That would scare the pants off of Candace
Mhm.
on the
Yeah.
beach screen like that.
Oh gosh. No, no, thank you. Now I have seen the extra. I sit down by myself in the middle of the night. I said, "I'm watching this movie."
I don't see how you did that, Candace.
And it was on AMC, so it
Mhm.
was on the TV, so it made it feel a little bit better, you know. And I sit down, I watch, I sit right up to the screen. I said, "I'm gonna face my fears," because I was right up to the screen when I first seen it. That it scared me to death, and I already knew what The Exorcist was even whenever that happened to me when I was a little kid. Because I
Right.
told you about, like, it, like, coming out, like, on a tape. I wouldn't expect it
Yeah.
to be there. And, so I knew what it was, and it already terrified me to begin with. And then I just faced my fears one day. I said, "This is on TV, it can't be too bad." I was wrong, but I sit there and I sit right up to the TV,
Mhm.
and I was just saying, "Oh, this ain't too bad, this ain't too bad," but inside it was hard. It was hard, and I was the kid that my mom would wake up in the middle of the night, and it'd be 3 o'clock in the morning,
Mhm.
and catch me watching, you know, the remake of the Night of the Living Dead. Like I would just sit there and watch it. I loved it. Nothing scared me. I
Right.
loved all this stuff. The Exorcist was something different. It was more than a movie to me. It felt not right. It felt
Well,
wrong.
there's something else about The Exorcist that it The Exorcist is a movie that is so psychological that it gets inside your head, and it even me that it doesn't bother me, it doesn't disturb me. It's still stuck in my head at the first time I watched it. It was like, I kind of sat there for a little bit and I was like, okay, let's break this down here. What did I actually see? Because I had an idea of what the Exorcist movie was before I watched it. But then after I watched it, it was like, this is nothing like I thought it was going to be. This is a movie that gets under your skin, that gets in your brain, and it stays there for a while.
Yeah.
And
It's
so
like go ahead, Dana. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, so somebody that naturally is going to have an aversion to it, that's going to be compound
Oh, yeah,
all the more.
because, I have, like, beliefs, that it just really goes against that kinda thing, but, I watch other stuff that's just like it, but there's something about it that I can't watch it or don't want anything to do with it. I can't. It scares the living daylights out of me. It gets in my head. It gets in my head, and it, like,
Yeah,
torments me.
yeah.
So, anything that gets into my head and it torments me, I can't do that, because my ADHD or what it my upset I have compulsive, stuff, and, that kinda thing gets into my head
And
and
you can't
can't
get it
get it
out.
out. Yeah, it's kinda like with the doll, like that Raggedy Ann doll.
Mhm.
My fear compacts it and it puts it in my head and it repeats in my head over and over and over and over. So, and I don't like anything that does me that way, and Exorcist is one of those things that did me that way. Now, as far as being scared by something like The Exorcist, one of the things that really, really scared me the first time I seen it, and the first few times I'd seen it, but it ended up being one of my favorite movies of all time, was the closet scene in Carrie. And
Oh, yeah,
where
yeah.
it shows the statue of Jesus, on the
That
cross.
freaks my cousin Heather out too.
And I remember that being fried into my brain the first time I seen that as a little girl. And it just freaked me out. I mean, this is Jesus. This is somebody that I worship.
Mhm.
I'm a Christian. I believe in, Jesus and God and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But that just seemed wrong. It was something used in a way that was scary.
That was,
Yeah.
because of her mother, because of
Mhm.
Margaret White, and the way Piper Laurie
She did
played
a great
her
job.
in
Yeah.
yes, she did an excellent job. That was, what I would call, religion taken to that ain't even religion. That's some kind of obsession. That is an extreme thing. That is not normal.
No, no,
And
it's
so
not.
what Margaret White was doing in both the book and the movie was she was projecting all of these things and telling her daughter that all these things were bad, they were evil, uh, that Eve was wicked, and that's why, she talks about the menstrual cycle. I'm not trying to be nasty here, but she says that if Carrie had not had lustful thoughts for boys at school, the curse of blood would never have come on her. And it's a manic
Mhm.
obsession.
Yeah.
It's a mental illness.
Yeah.
That's not religion. It's something totally wrong.
It's a mental disorder.
Hmm.
And, the way that Carrie, like, kinda tells her is like, "Your mom it's normal,
Yeah,
mama." And just the way that which that movie to me goes down as one of the greatest books,
yeah,
to me, one of the greatest things that Stephen King's ever done, and one of the greatest movies, especially horror movies.
right.
Carrie is up there for me. Um, Probably, I know in my top 5 favorite horror movies of all time. Sissy Spacek to me is just like Kathy Bates. I adore them. I think
Yeah,
they're
me
2 of the
too.
greatest actresses of all time. I think that they are just superb at what they do.
Mhm.
Kathy Bates has done things that is just, mind blowing. Dolores Claiborne and just,
Yeah.
just so many things that she's done. But so has Sissy Spacek, and Sissy Spacek, her line of work goes far beyond, horror.
Right.
Um,
She's
like
got great range.
like with the coal miner's daughter. I mean, she took
Oh
that
my
role and ran
gosh,
with it.
yes.
I mean, she became Loretta Lynn, and
She
especially
did.
if you're around from our parts, mine and Danny. If you're from Kentucky, you know who Loretta Lynn is. You know what that signifies for somebody from Kentucky. Especially because it's just up the road from where we live. It's like 45 minutes away. It's right up the road from where Chris lives, where
Mhm.
he's from, is where Butcher Holler is. So I always was a huge fan of Loretta Lynn, and she really took that role, and just like she did Carrie, and she became that character.
Yeah.
And
Did you hear the
wonderful.
story about Sissy Spacek and how Brian De Palma didn't think she would be right for the role? Did you ever hear the story
I
of
think,
like
yeah, I think so. Yeah,
Sissy Spacek got pissed off? It's like, I'll show you, Brian De
yeah,
Palma. And
yeah,
she went home and like greased her hair up and took
yeah.
her makeup off and came back and said, "Now look at me, Brian De
I
Palma."
I think he thought that she was too, goodsy and just didn't fit the role. Kind of like
I think
how,
he said too that she was too pretty for
yeah,
that role.
that's kind of like how Audrey Meadows of the Honeymooners did whenever she was, um, trying to get the role as Alice Cramden on the Honeymooners.
Mhm.
She came there, and Jackie Gleason, who was head honcho, he was like, "No, you're too, you're
Yeah.
too clean cut. You're too, don't fit the role. You're too good for this role." I guess is what he was trying to say. Too pretty. And
Mm.
she went back. She came back, and she gave it that. She roughed herself up, and she took that role like that. And he's like, "You got the job." So
See,
if
I
you're,
love women like that. I
Mhm.
aspire to be a woman like that. I know that I'm not, but gutsy women like that see something that they want and nobody's going to tell them no.
Yeah.
The I really respect that in a woman. Uh,
Yeah, but I just love those films, the that we just talked about and stuff like Carrie, though, it's just so good. I mean, I could sit and talk about Carrie all day long. I don't know. I think it might be, just thinking about it, because as you get older, you kind of your taste change or whatever, or your stuff get. I love The Shining. It's probably always said was my favorite horror film of all time, but or my favorite horror film of all time is Silence of the Lambs, and then The Shining was a close second, but I don't know, I think Carrie, I don't know, it's kinda giving them a run for their money. As I get older, I kind of
yeah.
relate more to her, and I know that's weird, like, how can you relate to Carrie? But you can.
Well, I think even the most popular people feel alienated at some
Mhm.
point in time in their life and have felt like an outsider. And I think
Yeah,
that's how Carrie feels in both the book and the film.
yeah,
She feels like she's an outsider. She feels like something's wrong with her.
yeah,
And her mother just compounds that. There's something wrong with you. Everybody. When her mother says, "I can see your dirty pillows," everyone will, and she
yeah,
says, "They're called breasts, Mama, and
yeah,
every woman has them." And her
yeah,
mother just, is so aloof and
yeah,
stuff like that. It's like, how can you treat your daughter this way? But mental
mental illness.
disorders
Mhm.
mental illness is a terrible, terrible
Yeah.
thing for even a family to have to deal with when one of the members of their
Oh,
family
yeah.
has this.
And unfortunately for Carrie, she was the only one dealing with it because her daddy left her mommy and, went out on her and left and probably could see the mental illness. I'm not talking about everybody deals with mental illness. I deal with it, but whenever it comes to, Carrie, that really is prevalent.
Mm,
And it's a reminder of how, especially this day and age where people talks more about mental illness, um,
mhm,
it's a reminder of how important our mental health is
yes.
and how important it is to, recognize your mental health. Because I mean, I'm not saying that every person that's in a horror movie has a mental problem or anything like that, but it's something that people are more open with talking about these days.
Oh
And
yes, it's not. I remember the line from Pet Cemetery when Rachel was talking about her sister who had spinal meningitis and died, and she says at one point, "My sister was kept in the back bedroom like a dirty secret." And I
uh,
think that's how people looked at mental illness for years and years and years. It was a dirty secret. It was people talked about it in whispers. They did, you
yeah,
know.
and
Um,
that's talking about that. That was another scene that really messed me up as a kid was the whole Zelda.
yeah, that oh, I could do a childhood nightmares on Zelda from Pet Cemetery. There's no doubt about that. That it weirded me out the first time I seen that, and it still gives me, kind of goosebumps because that guy, and it was a guy that played Zelda.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about becoming a character. He became
I mean, he
Zelda.
did. He did. I mean, he really looked twisted up.
Hmm.
He really took that character and ran with it, you know. I think he was kinda like a Doug Jones type person who could really just
Hmm.
meld into whatever they needed him to do. Doug Jones, you know, he can twist himself up in these, contortionist type
Hmm.
people. I'm sure that he was a contortionist, the guy that did the Zelda. I think we met him, Chris, if Chris is on here, so I can't remember.
I wanted to meet him, but like, wasn't he at the last Scare Fest when it was that?
They had a huge reunion where, like, Miko Hughes and then the guy the Pascal and
Mm. Well, this past time I wanted to meet Dale Midkiff and I wanted to meet the guy that played
Oh,
Zelda, and I didn't get to because they weren't at
was
their
he
table.
there? Was the guy that played Zelda
I
there?
thought he was. I thought he was.
He probably was. Seems like he was, Dana, now that you mention it. I wish you got to meet that
But
Midcuff. I mean,
it was just such a that last Scarefest was just such a nightmare. Like, I don't mean to say bad things about conventions and stuff, but they need to do something different at Scarefest because Steve was I was hungry too, and me being diabetic is when you can't find somewhere to eat, everywhere you go is full and there's lines everywhere. And Steve was so mad because they had taken out. You remember how they used to have that food court
yes,
area?
that was awesome. That
I
was the thing I
mean,
liked about it the most because whenever you had to go eat or something like that, you could just conveniently go down there. There's nowhere to eat at now. Not
unless
really.
you want to go stand in lines and pay for overpriced food, it's not
Why
even.
did they do that?
I don't know. I
I'll
don't.
never get over that. That just made no sense to me why they
And
did
then
that.
there's no where the convention is at. There's really no close by restaurants that you can walk to.
No, there's not. There's
And
not.
me and Steve were just about to we were about to pass out. And we finally just had to, or I had to finally give up on meeting people because Steve was getting crabby, he was hungry, and I was getting weak and starting to get shaky, and I needed something. And so we just finally we contacted Candice and Chris, and we said, "Hey, where are y'all at? Y'all want to go eat?" And so they met us, and we went to Beatty Mongolians, the Mongolian
Yeah.
Grill, and ate. Um, but man, that was crazy.
I mean, just you could be going to the best convention that you've ever been to and have a bad year. I mean, that's just we've been to them, and then the next year you go and it's good, and then you go again and it's good, then all of a sudden it's back bad again.
Yeah,
Uh, I mean, we didn't have a terrible time there, but I think we kinda did it we was there before you guys were. We, like,
yeah,
had the night before and
right.
checked in, so we didn't have to stand out in that line. Now
Mhm.
if we had to stand out in the line, then that that
I
prob
can't remember how long we were in the line, but it was quite a while. And I was thankful that we got there when we did because the people that came in after us, they were putting them down at like they were in some freaking mosh pit or something.
oh my
And we were like up the steps and they were like down in this hole. It was just terrible.
Yeah.
Chris says Lex Live is across the street that has food, and there was food trucks outside. It's the arena's issue, not the convention. Which,
Yeah, that arena,
yeah,
they made some mistakes by taking that stuff out
yeah,
that they had in that
yeah,
area.
and that's why I say I don't want to put the blame on the convention promoters because that's right. 1 second, folks.
Okay.
Sorry, guys. When you got 5 dogs in the house, or even maybe when you got two, I'm sure Candace has 2 or 3. When you have 2 or 3 dogs, it can get kind of noisy too.
Oh,
Uh,
I got 3 and they get loud, trust me. Ah,
but yeah, Chris, I agree with you. It's the way they change things at where they are having the convention, and it's not really the convention promoters' fault. They did everybody wrong, the convention promoters on down, by making those changes. And the changes didn't do the arena
no, it
any
didn't.
favors,
And the restaurants that they do have inside is really dark.
hmm
It's really a dark place, and it's not any light or anything like that, and hardly any places to sit. No, when you go to KFC Yum Center, they got Pizza Hut and KFC, and it's
Yeah,
just you go in there and it's got everything, all kinds of. You see food everywhere, and
right.
that's the way it should be, especially for big crowds like that. I mean, it needed to have that food court that everybody could go to. It just, I don't know, it just changed the whole atmosphere
Mm.
of everything when they changed all that at that arena. I don't think it's even called Rupp Arena anymore. I forget what they call it now.
No, it's a something bank center. What in the heck? I can't remember. Maybe
US
Chris
Bank
knows.
or something like that. I forget what they
I
call
don't
it, but
remember. Chris says KFC Yum Center seating is awful. Though I kind of would have to agree with that. What you need, Steve? What is it?
What's up?
I don't know. Did you get a new movie in or
I
something?
won this on Facebook. Some guy gave me a link.
Oh Lord, no telling what kind of movie it is.
Russ Meyer's up.
Chris says at least for tall people.
Up.
Yeah, dear. Okay. Um, well, I'll tell you, I usually don't have a problem with the KFC Yum Center. I've been there several times, especially after me and Steve got married and I moved to Louisville. What?
You're afraid of escalators.
Oh, we're not talking about escalators, Steve.
I love the escalator.
I don't like. I have a aversion to escalators. I'm scared of them. I'll admit.
Have you ever been on one?
Mm-hmm. I
Did
don't
you
like.
like fall or something like that?
No, I'm just afraid that I'm gonna fall or afraid that I'm gonna trip or.
No, I'm afraid of elevators
I don't like elevators either.
because I've had, trapped in them. I don't know how many
I'm
times, and
afraid now as claustrophobic as I am. If I got trapped in one, I'd lose my mind.
I mean, I told you what happened to me and my friends when we were on a FFA trip, right? At the Hyatt in
I
Lexington.
don't know if you did or not, Candace. What happened to you?
There was a boy that was in our class, in our FFA group,
Mhm.
and that's Future Farmers of America for anybody that doesn't know that. I was in Future Farmers in America all through
I'm from
high school.
Hancock County. I remember Future Farmers.
So we would go on all these awesome trips and stuff like that, and we were like at a UK basketball game or something like that. Our teacher had taken us to, and the one of the kids that was in the FFA that was on the trip, his family owned like a condo or something there,
Mhm.
and it was like at the one of the top floors, and he invited us to go, and our teacher let us go, where we wanted to. We just had to meet at a certain time. So, me and a group of people, is me, my friend Janice and Becky, and another girl and her brother, and 2 other girls I don't even remember. And these elevators wasn't even real huge. And here we are, like 70% of us big people. I wasn't at the time, but just was squished in there. Okay.
Oh my
So
gosh, that'd be a nightmare.
So here we're going up, and it's already janky anyway. And
Oh.
then we get to the top floor. We get out. We get out okay, and we can't find where this boy's condo is.
Mhm.
So we get back into, and I think he was just bull crapping all along and just trying to get people. So we got back into the elevator, pushed down, and it started acting like it was going to go down. And then it was just kind of like a hum, and you're just hearing a hum, like
Oh.
like that right there. And then
Mhm.
it kind of jerked and went down a little bit and stuck. And I was like, okay. And then it wasn't going anywhere. And then all of a sudden, it just drops. And here we are. It's going
God.
so fast that you're feeling yourself rising, like up off the ground. I thought we were dead. I thought
I've
we were
been
dead.
terrified.
I absolutely thought we were dead. And all of a sudden it just slows to a real big halt, and it kind of jerked us.
Mhm.
And we wasn't dead, but we were stuck. And this one girl who was with us, she was kind of like the teacher's pet or whatever.
Mhm.
And she was trying to take control of the situation, and she was trying to go push these buttons. And I told her, and we was all afraid for her to push those buttons.
Right.
And like the down buttons or whatever. I was like, don't push those buttons. Don't push the buttons. But she was going to, I'm doing it anyway. And I said, you push that button and it'll be the last time you ever do it. And she didn't push the button because I was like ready to, I was like,
Right.
I'm not playing around. So I said, what we need to do is push this button here. And it was like a call button. So we push the call button, and this guy comes over from maintenance, and we tell him what's happened, and he starts laughing at us.
I'd
And
be like, "But it's not funny."
he started laughing at us. He was like, oh, he said, he said that actually happened just a while ago to an older couple. He said, you all are going to be fine. We're going to come get you out. Okay. So here they come like 20 minutes later, and we see the like, we hear something open up, but we don't
Mhm.
see nothing. We hear like doors opening up, but we don't see anything. But we see a little light coming through the crack, but we only see the light coming from the very top of the crack, like
Right.
probably 3 foot. I mean, no, maybe not even that long, but about probably that much, just enough to squeeze out of. And I was like, what in the world? Then all of a sudden, we see the inner doors opening, and we see somebody hunkered down. We see their feet up
Oh.
above us with the opening probably this much. Okay, I'm like, what in the world? And then in front of us was nothing but concrete.
Mhm.
It had stopped below the floor. And they said, we're going to have to pull you out of there. And the people were like, no, we're not going through that. And there's some girls on there that were bigger.
Right.
And we're all like, so how are we going to get out of here? So they're starting to get these. And I said, well, I'll get off last. I'll help everybody. And there's a
Mhm.
boy in there. He said, well, I'll help everybody get up too. So they were pulling everybody out, and we just had to squeeze out of there. And then when it was finally time for me to get out, the boy stayed behind. He helped me out. They like to never got him out of there. I
Oh.
mean, this is a full grown boy, from high school.
Mhm.
And they like to never got him squeezed through there, but they did, and we all got out of there. So here we are, just kind of like still shaking from
I don't
having
think I'd
fallen.
ever wanna get in an elevator again.
So we turn this corner, and no joke, it's like the ballroom scene, like, like from something like maybe like The Shining, like the New
Yeah.
Year, the picture, and here's these people dressed to the nines in big sparkly ball gowns. There's big like ice carvings of like horses and stuff. It's some kind of derby something.
Uh,
And we have to go through, and there's like waiters packing around shrimp cocktail and stuff like that. And we have to walk, us with our big FFA jackets or whatever on, have to walk through this big party.
my
And
gosh.
these people are just kind of looking at us, and the boy that was there, he was over there like getting shrimp and stuff. It's like, get out, let's get out of here. They wasn't stopping us or anything like that, but people were just like looking at us like, what are these kids doing in here?
Yeah.
So I don't know what that was, but we got out of there. And we didn't mention it to our teacher or anything like that. But that was the last time that something like that happened with me with the elevator. But as a kid, I got stuck like 3 times alone in the elevator. So
Mhm.
that's why I don't like elevators.
Well, gang, I would love to be on here, a little bit more, but I have just drank a whole energy drink, and you know how it is whenever I drink a lot of stuff, whether it's soft drink or it's energy drinks, I've got to go to the bathroom really bad, or there's going to be a puddle under my chair. So I hope that Candice is okay with us going ahead and tying things up. Um, but we went on a little bit longer than we had planned to, which is fine. I had a good time and probably would have went on longer if I didn't have to go to the restroom. But I want to thank everybody that was in here with us. I saw people coming in and out. Chris has been active in the chat, and the poet, and let's see, Ben was in here. I just didn't want to miss anybody. Gory Tiger was in here early on. But I want to thank all you guys that came in here and was hanging out with me and Candice. And for those of you that maybe couldn't be here for the live stream, those of you that watch it on the replay, we thank you for that as well. And stay tuned, because in a little more than an hour, I'll be back on showing Cassandra, a 1987 Australian slasher that the trailer alone creeped me out when I was a kid. So,
Oh yeah.
very, very creepy trailer. And some points in times, the movie is creepy in and of itself. It has a very creepy kid in it. So, just if you have an aversion to creepy kids in movies, you might want to miss this one. but I think it's a decent little slasher film too. So I do have it on archive.org. There's a link in the description for the stream. So if you want to click on that and go download the movie so you can watch it on your own, because I can't stream it or YouTube will get me for that. So, but nothing says you can't watch it on your own, as I'm watching it here, and we'll all enjoy the Australian slasher Cassandra from 1987. So
I seen
that'll
that
be,
you had your drive-in shirt on.
yeah,
I
I
should have
did.
wore mine.
This is my last drive-in night marathon.
I should have wore mine. I forgot. That's another opportunity that I'm
Yeah,
surprised.
I remembered what Chris said last time we did it, so I thought I'm going to put on one of my last drive-in shirts.
I've got my young blood shirt.
I like that one though.
Yeah, but I should have wore my we have tons of Joe Bob shirts.
Well, who knows? We may do another one of these drive-in type things. You can get, or you could wear it anytime. We don't have to be talking about drive-ins to wear it. Me and Candice and Chris are all huge fans of Joe Bob and the Darcy and the Last Drive-In and all that. So, but I really got to get off here because I got to have a bathroom break before my bladder bursts here. So, but stay tuned for me to be on in a little more than an hour again at 9 p.m. Eastern time for that. And I guess that's all from me and Candice for this edition of Friday Foolish. Stay tuned for more Friday Foolishes to come. I can't say they'll be every week, but we had 2 in a row, folks. So
Well, I figured, I would run by, this could be something you could think about if it was something maybe that you wanted to talk about. But I figured next time that we do this, maybe do a Friday Foolish, maybe, unless you got something else planned, like focusing on films that we've, maybe never seen before that we're or revisiting that's non-horror.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, I'd be game for that.
like just movies that we've recently watched
Mhm.
that we've never seen or that we've revisited or something like that. Because I've been watching a lot of movies,
Yeah,
and I think that we should maybe stick to just maybe non-horror.
yeah, that'd be
For
good
for
for
the
a
next one.
change. Yeah,
Kinda
and
leaves it open-ended too.
right. Okay. Yeah, that I'm totally down for that, Candace. So, so the next Friday Foolish, that's what we'll be doing. So me and Candace are off like a couple of dirty shirts. Our shirts ain't dirty, but we're off like a couple of them. And I want to remind you, as I always do before we get off of here for the evening, um, to be kind to one another and blaze that trail. Have a fantastic rest of your Friday evening, folks. If you don't have anything better to do at 9 p.m. Eastern, I'll be on here again showing Cassandra and discussing that film. Um, and we're out of here for now, but we'll see everybody next time. Bye, everybody.
See ya.